shall have to forgive my lack of makeup because I've literally just woken up. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I read the epilogue last night. I'm already like hooked. King's just really good at setting like a really unsettling tone, like straight off the bat. He did it in Carrie. He uses this technique where he'll like imply that something has happened and not really tell you anything about it, and it's like really unsettling, and I think it kind of like preys on FOMO maybe, where it's like people feel a bit uncomfortable knowing that something has happened that they don't know what's happened. That makes no sense. People are sort of naturally uncomfortable with not knowing the details of a situation. So yeah, I'm not very far into it at all, but it's good so far. We're following a writer because Stephen King can only write about writers, I think. Writers and teenage girls is my experience so far. Boy seems really interesting. He's like turned to religion in the wake of whatever it is that's happened to him and his dad. We don't even know what the relation of these two people are. We don't know their names. We know literally fuck all about them. He's very good at sowing the seeds of unsettling. There was a little author's note in the start. One of the things that really stood out to me is that so that was written in like 2005, I think. And he's like, I've written about like 50 books now, and this one is one of the ones that I consider the good ones or the scary ones. So we'll see. I haven't really read much more of this because we went swimming, but it is now absolutely pelting it down with rain. So I'm going to read a little bit and eat my Kit Kat. I'm just about to start chapter 2, but I'm really confused because it seems like he's going back to Jerusalem's Lot. He's not with the boy who's mentioned in the epilogue, but maybe he was and the boy just wasn't mentioned, but I was a bit confused. So we'll see how confused I am by the time I finish chapter 2, shall we? Because it's like forever until dinner. Dinner's not until 7 and it's currently I think about 4 o'clock. But I had a little hot dog at the swimming pool, so I'm sure with a Kit Kat I'll be fine. I also have this really comfy hotel pillow, which is just the most out there pattern I feel like for a hotel. However, given that I am a leopard print girly, definitely not complaining. Plus it's mega comfortable. So, oh yeah, that's the one. Okay, let's go on with chapter 2. I've never filmed in public before and it's really, really strange, and I keep like stopping and starting. Oh god, there's a wasp. Oh no, oh no. Oh, I'm so scared of wasps. I absolutely hate them. They're so scary. Okay, I'm okay. I'm reading so extremely slowly, but I'm hoping to get quite a bit read today because there's massive storms in Spain, so we literally can't do anything because it's pouring it down. I'm halfway through chapter 3, I think. It seems like chapter 3 is mostly just a rundown of some of the inhabitants of Jerusalem's Lot. So far, I think the ones I'm most intrigued by are the guy, the hunchback who lives at the trash heap, who seems like a bit of a crazy character, but I also think like it seems like such a quintessential horror thing of like the fella who's deformed who lives on the trash heap kind of thing. But I think he's gonna turn out to be quite a character. So far, the character that I'm most intrigued by is the little boy from the prologue who seems to have disappeared. I have no idea why he's just not present anymore. I think it might be Mark, who is this little kid who there's a bully, like a school bully, and the bully tries to pick on this kid, and this kid totally kicks his ass. Like, he literally hands his glasses over to somebody and is like, can you hold these for a sec? And then just wipes the floor with this school bully, which I think is iconic. I think his name's like Mark. Let me find his name.
2 hours later.
Mark Petrie is my favourite character so far. I also really like Weasel. I think Weasel could be a really interesting character. He's like the town drunk, I guess, but he doesn't seem very happy in his life, like, at all. He's low-key in love with the landlady, who the main character is like staying under, which is kind of cool. There are quite a few characters that I'm very interested in. I'm interested in Sandy, who's like a young mother who she's like married her husband because she got pregnant, and now she like resents the baby and him, and she's really clearly not handling it well. There's the person who looks after the cemeteries who found a guy's dead dog hung up on a gate, which is like the first sort of horror thing that's happened. But literally, like, I feel like King really does this where he'll just drop in an element of horror and then just move on as though that's completely normal, and it really sets like an unsettling atmosphere. His books are so unsettling but at the same time so like natural. Like, all of these characters you could fully meet them. They aren't sort of exaggerated in any way. And I think horror is so often like super dramatic with like these really like big characters where like their mannerisms and the way that they act is so like exaggerated, which like all of these are their characters where it's like, you know, you've got the town drunk, you've got like the struggling mother, like they are definitely like archetypes, but they feel very natural and they feel like real people. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I do find King's like openings a little slow. Like the opening of this is definitely slow, and I'm like, I want to get into the more horror stuff soon. But other than that, I'm enjoying it. It's just a little slow, but I think I'm really used to like short and fast-paced books recently. But I haven't really enjoyed any of those, so maybe the sort of slower start will bode well. Also, the way that this chapter is set out, like you follow different people in the town, but each section, because it's like separated into sections, each section is like a different time in the day. So like the first section starts at 4 a.m, which is the lads getting the milk ready. Then 4:30 is the milkman taking the milk. It's like you follow each person in the town, and it's basically like a day in the town, and you follow like a different person every couple of hours or whatever. And I think that's really smart. Plus, it kind of, like, a day in its life kind of makes the town seem sentient, which I definitely feel like could be something there.
The town knew about darkness. It knew about the darkness that comes on the land when rotation hides the land from the sun, and about the darkness of the human soul. The town is an accumulation of 3 parts which, in sum, are greater than the sections. The town is the people who live there, the buildings which they have erected to den or do business in, and it is the land. The people are Scotch-English and French. There are others, of course, a smattering, like a fistful of pepper thrown in a pot of salt, but not many. This melting pot never melted very much. The buildings are nearly all constructed of honest wood. Many of the older houses are salt boxes, and most of the stores are false-fronted, although no one could have said why. The people know there is nothing behind those facades, just as most of them know that Loretta Starcher wears falsies. The land is granite-bodied and covered with a thin, easily ruptured skin of topsoil. Farming it is a thankless, sweaty, miserable, crazy business. The harrow turns up great chunks of the granite underlayer and breaks on them. In May, you take out your truck as soon as the ground is dry enough to support it, and you and your boys fill it up with rocks perhaps a dozen times before harrowing, and dump them in the great weed-choked pile where you have dumped them since 1955, when you first took this tiger by the balls. And when you have picked them until the dirt won't come out from under your nails when you wash and your fingers feel huge and numb and oddly large poured, you hitch your harrow to your tractor, and before you've broken 2 rows you bust one of the blades on a rock you missed. And putting on a new blade, getting your oldest to hold up the hitch so you can get at it, the first mosquito of the new season buzzes bloodthirstily past your ear with that eye-watering hum that always makes you think it's the sound loonies must hear just before they kill all their kids, or close their eyes on the interstate and put the gas pedal to the floor, or tighten their toe on the trigger of the .30 they just jammed into their quackers. And then your boy's sweat-slicked fingers slip, and one of the other round harrow blades scrapes skin from your arm, and looking around in that kind of despairing, heartless flicker of time when it seems you could just give it all over and take up drinking or go down the bank that holds your mortgage and declare bankruptcy. I really haven't had too much time to read, but I have hit part 2. So, time for a little update. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So at the point I'm at, we have 2 and a couple of potential like thrall type beat. I'm really liking Ben. He's possibly my favorite. I'm really liking Matt as well. I think the 2 of them bounce off each other really well. Susan's a bit boring. She's fine, I guess. She kind of just gives like cookie cutter female character, which is fine, I guess, whatever. King is a bit weird about female characters in general. He's very obsessed with breasts. There's like weird description in both Carrie and in this. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'm very low energy. I'm a little bit poorly. I have like hay fever really badly, and I think I have a bit of a cold as well. That hit like the day we arrived, so bit inconvenient. But I've got some medicine and stuff, so hopefully I have a little fake tattoo that started crumbling off next to my baby. We've mostly just been going into the town and stuff. Go shopping. I've spent too much money, obviously. But yeah, I have got a little bit red. Mostly in the mornings, I read a little bit at breakfast and a little bit at night if it's not too late. I'm enjoying it. I just really like Stephen King's writing style. It's quite dry, but I find it dry in a similar way, I think, to Tolkien. It's like, he's dry but descriptive. And I just like his writing style just feels very suburban. Like, I really do feel like I'm in a small town in America. But Stephen King's writing feels like a small American town. Even in The Shining, which wasn't set in a small American town, it was set in a hotel, it still felt small American town-esque. So I really like these little picture snippets. I really like the kind of creepiness of Marston House. I really hope we get to see a little bit. I hope we get to go up there again, because the 2 delivery drivers went up there and that was fun. It kind of, I do think it's going to be more of like a classic vampire novel than horror in the same way that like The Shining was. But I am barely into the book, so we'll see. So far, it's just been kind of vampire-y, which is still the vibe I'm going for. I really love vampires. They're one of my favourite supernatural creatures. And I'm planning on a vampire-y October, so... At that moment of hating the land and the soft suck of gravity that holds you to it, you also love it, and understand how it knows darkness and has always known it. The land has got you, locked up solid got you, and the house and the woman you fell in love with when you started high school, Only she was a girl then, and you didn't know for shit about girls except that you got one and hung on to her, and she wrote your name all over her book covers, and first you broke her in, and then she broke you in, and then neither of you had to worry about that mess anymore. And the kids have got you, kids that were started in the creaky double bed and the splintered headboard. You and she made the kids after the darkness fell, 6 kids or 7 or 10. The bank has you, and the car dealership, and the Sears store in Lewiston, and John Deere in Brunswick. But most of all, the town has you, because you know it the way you know the shape of your wife's breast. You know who will be hanging around Crossing Store in the daytime because Napshew has laid him off, and you know who is having woman trouble even before he knows it, the way Reggie Sawyer is having it with that phone company kid dipping his wick in Bonnie Sawyer's barrel. You know where the roads go and where. On Friday afternoon, you and Hank and Nolly Gardner can go and park and drink a couple of 6-packs or a couple of cases. You know how the ground lies, and you know how to get through the marshes in April without getting the top of your boots wet. You know it all. And it knows you, how your crotch aches from the tractor saddle when the day's harrowing is done, and how the lump in your back was just a cyst and nothing to worry about like the doctor said it first might be. And how your mind works over the bills that come in during the last week of the month. It sees through your lies, even the ones you tell yourself, like how you were going to take the wife and kids to Disneyland next year, or the year after that. Like how you can afford the payments on the new colour TV if you cut cordwood next fall, like how everything is going to come out all right. Being in the town is a daily act of utter intercourse, so complete that it makes what you and your wife do in the squeaky bed look like a handshake. Being in the town is prosaic, sensuous, alcoholic, and in the dark the town is yours and you are the town's, and together you sleep like the dead, like the very stones in your north field. There is no life here but the slow death of days, and so when the evil falls on the town, its coming seems almost preordained, sweet and morphic. It is almost as though the town knows the evil was coming and the shape it would take.
I do really enjoy as well when, particularly in sort of supernatural horror, when it's acknowledged that it's kind of mental. Like when Ben and Matt are talking about how people are going to think they're crazy and how Susan really doesn't believe it. And then Ben's just kind of like, look at the proof. There's really no other option for what this could be. And sort of slowly everybody kind of starts believing it because there's really no other option. I like that it's not just an immediate, they're told what Ben suspects, and then everybody's just like, yeah, that's what it is. I like that they're sort of having to put the pieces together and realizing that even if it's crazy, there's no other real like answer as to what could be happening other than vampires. I just really like that aspect of it. Because even, I don't really remember in Dracula how believing or unbelieving they are at first, but I like that.
This close to the house, it was just not possible to scoff. All the thought processes, the act of conversation itself, were overshadowed by a more fundamental voice that was screaming danger, danger, in words that were not words at all. Her heartbeat and respiration were up, yet her skin was cold with the capillary dilating effect of adrenaline, which keeps the blood hiding deep in the body's wells during moments of stress. Her kidneys were tight and heavy. Her eyes seemed preternaturally sharp, taking in every splinter and paint flake on the side of the house. And all of this had been triggered by no external stimuli at all. No men with guns, no large and snarling dogs, no smell of fire. A deeper watchman than her 5 senses had been wakened after a long season of sleep, and there was no ignoring it. She peered through a break in the lower shutters. "Why, they haven't done a thing to it," she said almost angrily. "It's a mess. Let me see, boost me up." She laced her fingers together so he could look through the broken slats and into the crumbling living room of Marston House. He saw a deserted, boxy parlour with a thin patina of dust on the floor. Many footprints had been tracked through it. Peeling wallpaper, 2 or 3 old easy chairs, a scarred table. There were cobwebs festooned in the room's upper corners near the ceiling. Before she could protest, he had wrapped the hook and eye combination that held the shutter closed with the blunt end of his stake. The lock fell to the ground in 2 rusty pieces, and the shutter creaked outward an inch or 2. "Hey!" she protested. "You shouldn't. What do you want to do? Ring the doorbell?"
I really like that they're mirroring the way that I think it was Mary was like kind of turned with one of the characters. I really like that. You can tell that he's taken a lot of inspiration from Bram Stoker, and like a lot of the same kind of story beats are happening, and I really like that. It's kind of almost a retelling, but also totally different, and I fuck with that. One of the characters has just made up a story to cover for the fact that they've just fought a vampire. And he goes, "Have you ever thought about giving up doctoring in favour of a career in creative writing?" Character smiled. "I'm only creative in moments of extreme self-interest." If you hear any strange noises, I'm currently in the zoo again. For example, last night I finished part 2 of Salem's Lot. Still really enjoying it. One of our main characters, I'll try not to be too spoilery, but one of our main characters is now a vampire, and I'm really hoping, because I'm kind of worried that it's going to be like a Mary from Dracula situation where you think she's going to turn and then she doesn't. But this time they are fully vampiristic. So I'm like, if anybody's going to commit to killing off one of their characters, it's Mr. King. So, but I've read so many like fantasies where like a main character dies and then they're brought back, and I'm just like, hopefully, you know, the godfather of horror will not disappoint. You'll have to forgive me if I'm a little bit out of breath. I've just walked up the massive hill back to where we're staying. I have got a lovely ice cream to make it all better. Okay, I'm well into the final act now. I say well into the final act. I'm a little way into the final act now. He did commit to a character death that I was really hoping he was going to commit to. I knew if I could trust anybody, it was Mr. King, and I'm very happy that he did commit to killing off a certain character. But yeah, I just want to kind of round out a couple of my thoughts. Firstly, oh my god, there's a wasp. Oh my god, why? I just want to kind of round out a couple of my thoughts. Primarily, I said earlier that it feels very American small town, and I still fully stand by that. It feels very murder mystery, particularly in the beginning. But as we've sort of moved through the story, I can so see like a lot of the story beats and characters really pay homage to the original Dracula. And I just really like that, like, to me, Dracula feels like a very sort of English story, and like the characters feel very English. So I really like that King has managed to replicate a lot of the sort of story beats, but in a way that feels very quintessentially American small town. So it feels like Dracula, but still its own thing and very unique. Still love Mark. Mark is probably my favourite character. He's such an icon. Literally, I don't think the kids had a line yet that hasn't been like, what an icon. He was just such like a cool character. Ben's kind of fallen off a little bit. He kind of doesn't feel like the main character anymore, which is, it could be seen as a choice, but I do also kind of get it, because now it kind of feels more like a, what's the word? There's a broader cast than just Ben now, and God, I squint so badly in the sun. But by far, of the main cast, Mark is my favourite, followed closely by Matt. Other than that, I don't really care. But we're here for 2 more days now. We are going out tomorrow in the afternoon, so I'm hoping to get
most of the book finished today and then finish it off tomorrow in the morning. And then I'll probably spend Friday while we're at the airport editing. Yay! In the fall, night comes like this on the lot. The sun loses its thin grip on the air first, turning it cold, making it remember that winter is coming and winter will be long. Thin clouds form and the shadows lengthen out. They have no breadth as summer shadows have. There are no leaves on the trees or fat clouds in the sky to make them thick. They are gaunt, mean shadows that bite the ground like teeth. As the sun nears the horizon, its benevolent yellow begins to deepen, to become infected, until it glares an angry, inflamed orange. It throws a variegated glow over the horizon, a cloud-congested core that is alternately red, orange, vermilion, purple. Sometimes the clouds break apart in great, slow rafts, letting through beams of innocent yellow sunlight that are bitterly nostalgic for the summer that has gone by. This is 6 o'clock, the supper hour. In the lot, dinner is eaten at noon, and the lunch buckets that men grab from counters before going out the door are known as dinner pails. Mabel Wirtz, the unhealthy fat of old age hanging doughy on her bones, is sitting down to a broiled breast of chicken and a cup of Lipton tea, the phone by her elbow. In Ava's, the men are getting together whatever they have to get together. TV dinners, canned corned beef, canned beans which are woefully unlike the beans their mothers used to bake all Saturday morning and afternoon years ago, spaghetti dinners or reheated hamburgers picked up at the Falmouth McDonald's on the way home from work. Ava sits at the table in the front room, irritably playing gin rummy with Grover Verrill and snapping at the others to wipe up their grease and to stop that damn slopping around. They cannot remember ever having seen her this way, cat nervous and feisty, but they know what the matter is, even if she does not. Mr. and Mrs. Petrie eat sandwiches in their kitchen, trying to puzzle out the call they have just received, a call from the local Catholic priest, Father Callahan. "Your son is with me. He's fine. I will have him home shortly. Goodbye." They have debated calling the local lawman, Parkins Gillespie, and have decided to wait a bit longer. They have sensed some sort of change in their son, who has always been what his mother likes to call a deep one, yet the spectres of Ralphie and Danny Glick hang over them, unacknowledged. I've been interrupted by the sun. I know what you're thinking, and I absolutely agree. It's very, very ironic that I am reading a book about vampires and running from the sun. But I could not see, so we've moved inside. Milt Crossan is having bread and milk in the back of his store. He has had damned little appetite since his wife died back in '68. Delbert Markey, proprietor of Dell's, is working his way methodically through the 5 hamburgers which he has fried himself on the grill. He eats them with mustard and heaps of raw onions, and will complain most of the night to anyone who will listen that his goddamn acid indigestion is killing him. Father Callahan's housekeeper, Rhoda Curlis, eats nothing. She is worried about the father, who is out someplace ramming the roads. Harriet Durham and her family are eating pork chops. Carl Smith, a widower since 1958, has 1 boiled potato and a bottle of Moxie. The Derek Boddins are having an Armour Star ham and Brussels sprouts. Yech, says Richie Boddin, the deposed bully. Brussels sprouts. You eat 'em or I'll clout your ass backward, Derek says. He hates them himself. By 6:45, most meals have been eaten. Most after-dinner cigarettes, cigars and pipes smoked. Most tables cleared. Dishes are being washed, rinsed and stacked in their drainers. Young children are being packed into Dr. Denton's and sent into the other room to watch game shows on TV until bedtime. You shall have to forgive the appalling lighting conditions, but it is currently about 6 in the morning and the sun has not risen yet. This behind me is the sky. I'm in very much the home stretch now. I'm definitely going to get this finished today. We don't have anything on until the afternoon. So yeah, definitely gonna get finished. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about something that I've been thinking about while I was showering this morning. And that is, I'm really glad that I actually read The Shining before this. So I was planning on reading them in publication order, and I actually ended up reading The Shining first, even though this is his second novel. I think I've skipped this and The Stand and his Bachman books, or at least one of them. But I'm really glad, actually, that I've read this
afterwards, because I'm kind of thinking about doing some research and maybe actually writing an essay about how this compares and contrasts to Carrie and The Shining. Carrie, because they're both stories about a small town getting its reckoning in very different ways, which I really like, because Carrie is very centered around her. She brings the reckoning. It's her that has been wronged in the eyes of her and in the eyes of the viewer. It's her that's been wronged by this town, and so she is the one that delivers the reckoning. But then in this one we have a much broader cast of characters who are all sort of morally grey, and the reckoning comes from them all, from a spread of an issue, in this case being vampirism. I just think that's really interesting that he manages to bring... I just wonder if he's ever talked about this and why in his first two novels he decided to use the small town setting twice. I've never read The Stand, and I'm really intrigued to see, because that's like, I believe it goes in terms of his grander novels as Stephen King. It goes Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Stand, Shining. So I'm intrigued to see what The Stand does, because obviously Carrie and Salem's Lot are both about small towns, and then The Shining is very much about a single family unit. So I'm intrigued to see what The Stand is about. I have absolutely no idea. I do own the book, but couldn't tell you anything about what it's about. And then in terms of The Shining, I think it's really interesting that in both of them he has obviously adult characters to sort of bounce horror off of, but then also a child character to bounce horror off of, especially considering both Mark and Danny react pretty calmly for the most part towards the horror. Obviously we do see Mark get much more fearful towards the end, as they have to undertake certain tasks, and Danny has that one particular scene in the playground where he gets really, really scared. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting that in both cases it's a little boy who is also experiencing and kind of knows what's happening before most of the adults do. And I think this is definitely a running theme with King, because in both books he kind of reflects on how children respond to elements of horror, or like the fantasy or the supernatural, things that shouldn't exist, and the way that like a child's imagination responds to that in comparison to an adult who has kind of already accepted that those things don't exist and can't exist. So yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I kind of want to do some research and look up some interviews and stuff and see if he has anything to say about either of those things, small towns and children reacting to horror, because also on the small town thing, like the way that both books respond to religion's really interesting, because Carrie's mum is extremely religious and it's very much seen in a negative way, but then you could also see the way that Carrie almost is doomsday for this town, as sort of God's will to banish this town for its moral regressions. And in Salem's Lot, the religious character religion very much works against these vampires, but our religious character is not strong enough in his faith to fulfill what he needs to do. And I think that's really interesting that King is sort of portraying religion in a negative light, but not wholly, or like there's a way that you can read it that does not portray religion in a negative light. I'm interested to see what King has said about religion and how he feels about it, because in my work at university I did quite a lot of research into art and religion, so I'd be kind of intrigued to see if that is a running theme in his head or if he just happens to include religion. I definitely think that small towns and religion definitely have, at least from the perspective of somebody who lives in England, definitely have a link to each other, like small American towns and the Christian church definitely have that sort of connotation to at least the rest of the world, particularly when they're receiving this sort of doomsday treatment. So we'll see. I'm going to do some research when I get home and have my computer and stuff. I'm kind of missing writing essays, if you can't tell. I even planned out an essay about Pulp Fiction, but that's a whole other thing. Let's get this book finished.
In a short upstairs flat on Taggart Street, which runs a short distance from Jointner Avenue to a dead end behind the municipal building, Joe Crane is given a left-handed gift from the gods. He has finished a small bowl of shredded wheat and is sitting down to watch the TV when he feels a large and sudden pain paralyse the left side of his chest and his left arm. He thinks, "What's this? Ticker?" As it happens, this is exactly right. He gets up and makes it halfway to the telephone before the pain suddenly swells and drops him in his tracks like a steer hit with the hammer. His small colour TV babbles on, and it will be 24 hours before anyone finds him. His death, which occurs at 6:51 p.m, is the only natural death to occur in Jerusalem's lot on October 6th. By 7 o'clock, the panoply of colours on the horizon has shrunk to a bitter orange line on the western horizon, as if furnace fires have been banked beyond the edge of the world. In the east, the stars are already out. They gleam steadily like fierce diamonds. There is no mercy in them at this time of year, no comfort for lovers. They gleam in beautiful indifference. For the small children, bedtime has come. Time for the babies to be packed into their beds and cribs by parents who smile at their cries to be let up a little longer, to leave the light on. They indulgently open closet doors to show there is nothing in there. And all around them, the bestiality of night rises on tenebrous wings. The vampire's time has come.
The only thing I have left to read now is the deleted scenes, so I'm going to consider myself finished with Salem's Lot. I am going to read the deleted scenes, but I've read the story now, so I can give my final thoughts and things. Technically, I'm going to be a little bit spoilery here. I'm going to try and be really vague, but if you literally want zero spoilers, click away now. Mostly just because I feel like the endings of horror is so important to how I feel about the story. I do really like sort of open-ended or like cliffhangery endings. I didn't realise that the two stories at the end were actually written after the original novel, so I'm going to consider them as like 3 separate endings. So the first ending, the end of Ben's story, is kind of satisfying. I think it leaves it quite open to the reader's interpretation of whether or not they destroy the evil. But personally, my favourite ending is the one with the first short story, One for the Road, because it tells you that they haven't vanquished the evil. And I kind of like that. I think that stories where the horror is not destroyed are more scary to me. I don't know why. I prefer the cliffhanger ending, so for me, One for the Road really nails it in, especially because like One for the Road is like kind of really creepy at the end. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed One for the Road. I'm glad that I have the edition that has like that on the end, because I think that's the most successful ending. I've got to say, the second short story, I don't know if I'm just thick, but I did not get it at all. I don't know how the worm relates to the rest of the story. It kind of felt really separate. I do like the idea of like having an earlier set story, and I get that it's trying to say that Jerusalem's Lot is like inherently evil, and there's like it's like inherently devilish, I guess. But I'm like, the worm is not mentioned at all in any of the rest of the story, so it just felt really disconnected, especially because like the main evil is Barlow, and doesn't it literally say that he moved from England? I thought maybe it was going to start relating like in the very last letter, because the character's like, you know, it's like this family line that's evil, I guess, and then he's like, this guy thought he was the last of the line, but he wasn't, I am. And then I thought it was going to be that like Hubert, I don't remember his name, the original guy who lived in Marston House, and then it just wasn't. So unless I've missed something, I found that really confusing and unrelated. But yeah, I did really enjoy the story. I personally prefer the ending before Jerusalem's Lot, the short story. So I am going to read the deleted scenes. If I have anything to say about the deleted scenes, then this won't be the end of the video, but you know, we'll see. Other than that, completed! Literally, we go home tomorrow night, so I'm really happy that I managed to get the whole thing read while I'm here in lovely sunny Spain, and I'm finishing it on my second to last morning here, so